My name's Dave Spooner, and I'm with the Whittlin Wood Carvers, and this is Whittling Time for WKTV. And this presentation, we're going to carve the head of the marionette puppet we just did, and I start with a pattern, just like this. And the basic dimensions for a head, or proportions, is it cuts it in thirds, from the brow to the nose, and you've got those. Now with the pattern, it's already calculated for us in thirds, and then you've got this area, and then the width. So what I did in this case, there's a lot of different ways to carve a head. So in this case, what I did was I start with a block of wood, and I make sure I've got it oversized to be able to accommodate for the bandsaw, because I call this a compound cut. So we take in, when we orient our pattern, I've got these lines, witness lines right here, or you could call them guidelines or anything else. So I've got those lined up. So when you cut with the bandsaw, you've got, it doesn't look all twisted and candywampus, because when you pull it out of the wood, it looks a little goofy to begin with, you know. So we don't need any more trouble that way. Once I've got the pattern on and oriented, I can cut it. And what I'll do is I'll do the profile first, cut that out, I tape everything back together, and then I cut the front profile and that. And then when it's all cut, then I can take it right out of the mold. And when you see it, it probably looks a little goofy here. You got a lot of pieces you end up with. And you come up with something like that. So you can kind of get the idea about the profile on the side, but when you look at the front of it, it looks a little goofy in that. So it's a matter of, I like to say, you're starting out with a 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, and then you're going to carve it to a 3rd dimension. So what I started with here is I mark off with my guidelines again. I try to get my center, so I've got a flexible ruler, and you could use paper or anything else, and you find your center right here and here, and you kind of mark yourself, and I'll take a flexible ruler or paper or anything else and then put it around, and then you take your pencil and then scribe it all the way. Now the side profile, you go to the front of the ear down, and how I determine that is I took this pattern and made a couple templates. So if you take a look at this right here, you'll see how I got this cut out, and I marked the position of my ear right there, and then I just kind of flip it the other side, and I get the position of my ear right here. And with the bandsaw cut, you've already got that extra mound to work with, you know, and it's already established the position in this way. So it's a matter of cutting away all that's not the face. So once I've got that established at center, then I go with I start, in this case, I start with the back of the head. and I go with my center. And of course, it's almost like in quarters. So I'll carve it round here, round there, and right behind the ear, and maybe do a little bit around the ear also. You know, so it's a matter of taking and cutting that area out. I call it like stop cuts, and then cut down to it. And then until I get that whole back rounded off. And then the next step, I'll go with flattening out the front. I'll take the front and flatten this out this way on both sides. And then maybe work a little bit on the ear a little more. And again, using that pattern. And most of this I've been doing with a knife. And that works well. Now, there might be a point where you take a power carver, or if you are a power carver, you can do that with power carving. I just happen to like with a knife. It feels better to me. I've been used to it, you know. So you kind of flatten that around, and then you also establish this other one. I usually kind of establish the eyes too, the position of the eyes, because I can put it up there and I've got those little cutouts. And you don't really, it's not really necessary, but what I do to establish the eyes, I'll start with the eye pocket, the recess that your eye sets into. And I'll take, in this case, maybe like a 1/2 inch type. This is anything 1/2 inch round. And then you can just take and maybe just kind of pencil it in, just to kind of establish that area. And then kind of just where you're just going to start your cuts. So in this case, we'll do a stop cut here for the nose on each side. And then we're going to just right out in the brow, because you can see right where with the bandsaw cut how that mounds up a little bit. So you're just going to kind of use that as a guide, just like that, you know. And if you kind of go down to the nose and hope you don't overshoot yourself and cut his nose off, and that would be to spite his face, but and then you can start carving this way, and then go to the other side, and you want to kind of rotate from one side to the other side to kind of keep your symmetry, kind of keep your balance. And that, and again, you're going to do the same thing over here. You're going to and like I said, hope we don't cut his nose off. But see, we're going to taper this side because you have your face that's going to be in like a basic triangle area. And kind of go back and forth. And then create a pocket. for that eye socket. Again, it involves a lot of little stop cuts. What I like to call stop cuts. A little awkward for the camera this way. And then the other side, again, stop cuts. And then we're going to define the bottom of the cheek. And I just do a round cut like that. And then just cut right down to it. Same way with the other side. So you keep kind of working down the eye socket and around the cheeks right here. And that. So you just kind of keep working it, and then of course at the same time you want to taper it down a little bit, but not too much where you're going to make them too skinny. You don't want to take too much off. So it's best to just kind of work it down side to side, back and forth, in and out, and that, and you get it down to where you've got this spot where, see, we got the eyes mound. We've got the nose there, a little more defined. And the best thing is you notice this, the profile right here. The nose doesn't seem to extend far enough out where it should be. So a lot of times what you do is just kind of carve deeper into the eye socket this way, and then keep working the cheeks down. And then once you got those cheeks down, you just kind of work them that way. That way, you work them down so they're recessed enough where it looks like it should. And again, we're kind of working it into like a taper. And that. So, like the cheeks right here, you know, and then when you kind of work this down, you'll see for the bandsaw cut, you've already defined the position of the mouth and then the bottom of the lip here into the chin, and of course underneath the nose. So this is where you're going to kind of work into this. Kind of start with this position, and again you're gonna do it on an angle, and that, and kind of keep going in on an angle. Again, because we're tapered, and then we do the other side. Same thing on an angle, only the opposite way, and that, and again with the cheek. I like to define it with a stop cut, and usually you see the cheek will come down around here into the ear. So you want to try to keep that as close as possible this way. And as you start working it down, it'll start coming into play here. You know. And again, depending on what the pattern you use too. Just kind of work it down. There. And then, of course, from here down, it kind of tapers a little bit. So you're going to kind of try to work on that taper. You know, and at the same time, kind of work on that, the mouth and the nose, above the nose, and this lip and cheek area, and kind of give it a rounded figure. And now it might be a good time to kind of work on the nose. Put a stock cut up there at the top of the nostril, and then kind of work it down. And as you carve and work it, it'll start taking shape. But you kind of go back and forth, and again, with this cheek area, we're going to just keep taking it down a little bit at a time. Same way with the eye socket, we're going to do that, and then kind of go down the length of the nose, and the length of the nose on this side. And you kind of work that down, kind of pare that cheek back a little bit. And the more we take the cheek down, then you can see the nose is able to protrude a little more and all that. So there's a start to there. And then we graduate to this part, to this one, to this stage. And what I do over here is to actually get the eye in proportion. I'll take a smaller, like a leather punch, gasket punch, and then twist it into the eye mound to define that area. And once that's defined, what I do is just take a triangular cut on each side of that circle, and then cut in a little bit, a little triangle here. And of course I want to put a deeper stop cut around the rest of it, and then kind of round it off with your knife. Kind of go into it. Again, triangular cut. Watch that little guy doesn't want to go out of there. There he is. And over on the other side. And then sometimes what I'll do is go over it again, kind of help round it off where sometimes the knife will cut more facets in it than you like. So it's a matter of kind of working all this down, and we're also kind of conscious as trying to keep our symmetry there. And like I said, go into maybe like a subtle triangle. So you're going to be always conscious of that while you're kind of working up the cheeks and down the side. And you're just going to keep working it until You're satisfied? And then, so you're going to blend these two parts of the face together, because you notice in early on you're going to have these saw marks in the side. So you're going to kind of level those out a little bit. And again, back to the ear. Round that off. Kind of V-cut right back on the far side of the eye. Again. Work a little bit on the eyeball there. And then with the eyebrows, you want to define those a little bit, so it's going to cut those back. And you might be able to change his expression a little bit by the way you might carve out his eyebrows. And you might be able to change his expression with his mouth. If you put a smiley mouth up or down, that could always kind of change his whole look. And that. Here's his chin. Give him a little detail there. And one thing too is you can always work on his expressions too, by the way you might change his mouth, his eyebrows, the way the eyes look, big cheeks, small cheeks. And right here, get a little bit lopsided on the nose. Bring him back into proportion. Okay, that's deep here. Then I can check. The deeper I cut here on the side of the nose, I can always start working that cheek back also. And again, that'll help define how big or small his nose is. And that, so you're kind of cutting down here, back to the neck, the base of the neck. And again, you see here, so we starting to get some definition. work on the eyes here a little bit. And again, I'll kind of put that leather punch to redefine the eye. Work that up a little bit. Work on that inside of that nose. And that, so. And by the time you've got it defined, it should look like that. I took a little bit of wood burning and I did his eyebrows, at least to give him a little definition, and maybe a little bit around the eyes to that. And one thing I didn't mention to start out with, usually what I'll do is when it's still in its block form, when it's still in this form, I'll do my drilling. I'll kind of mark it off and then drill my hole. That way I can get a good, straight, plumb bore in there so it's not crooked one way or the other. It keeps it straight. And I usually do, if I've got any projects with the compound cut in the bandsaw, I usually always try to do my drilling and machine work before I start my cutting on my bandsaw. Then I know everything is straight, because before you do it, if you try to do it afterwards, it never comes out straight or line, you know, and all that. So I think that would be towards the end of it. And again, the ball, like I said, with this type method, is what's used to plug into the top of the puppet. And then I'll take some wooden pins into these holes that I drilled, and that retains it in that. So, but it still lets you do the swivel. In other marionette puppets we've done before, is they've always had the eyelets, the screw eyelets, as joints, and you have very little control on it. So this seems to be about the best method so far. And I think with that, I'm finished.